Welcome to the finals of the Japan Spring 3v3 here on the channel. My name is Jake. You can also call me Atrocious, and we've got some unofficial English commentary for you all on these finals. These are the two teams that are competing, and you know by the title and thumbnail which one is going to be showcased in this. It's a matchup that I think a lot of people are interested post ban list, post EBO2 into OP11. Rob Lucci versus Blue Purple Luffy. But quick couple things real quick. First of all, I am not the official live stream or the official casting of this championship. If you want to go check that out, you can check out the link in the description below. As always for these championships, I'm just doing this for my own personal practice to get better at casting. And before we jump into the match, let's hear from a word from our sponsor. Whether you love opening packs or going out to buy singles, make sure to log all your cards on your phone through OP Decks. It's the ultimate companion app for all things One Piece trading card game. Whether you're collecting cards, building decks, or looking to level up your game, this app has you covered. Listen, there's a lot of perks within this app on your phone. If you're like me and don't remember what amounts of cards you have, there's a really easy filter system within the app. And honestly, that's just scratching the surface of this app. You can download this app for free on both the App Store and Google Play Store. But you can also get the pro version of this app free for 30 days just by using my code Atrocious. I mean, honestly, it's a win-win. You get a great app that I use to be able to log my cards, right? And you can do it as well. And you're helping support the channel for free. The download link and instructions to redeem your trial are in the description below. Don't miss out now. Check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, especially after the ban list, Rob Lucci has been a high point of conversation within the One Piece community. What does the build look like? What are the different pieces of cost, minus, and KO? And also recursion, right? With Rob Lucci, all aspects of that were destroyed kind of in the ban and had to be reformed. Blue Purple Luffy is the new king on the block. If you've been following the One Piece trading card game scene since the release of OP11, has undoubtedly become the best leader in the format, right? And the best deck in the game. It's going to be really interesting as Rob Lucci is kind of sometimes one of the counter picks to the Blue Purple Luffy. If Rob Lucci's removal can get past the big bodies and the quickness, right? Once this deck gets going in. Looks like, especially as a starting hand, not looking good for this Blue Purple Luffy. 2 Charlotte Linlands, a secret rare Rush Luffy, a God Thread, and also a 1-cost Giant. The bad part about this hand is with Blue Purple Luffy, a lot of times you're just trying to go like ramp for your first 2 turns, right? To get to 8 as soon as possible to put out the leader effect. And so if you struggle getting to that 8, the slower it takes you, the harder it is to win the game. And Rob Lucci right here doesn't look like they have a bad hand at all, right? You see the 3-cost Brook, 4-cost Kuzan, and Laboon along with the Shirahoshi, a tech that has really started to build more and more in these Rob Lucci decks, and also 10-cost Kuzan. The 10-cost Kuzan is a really nice addition in the last couple months to the One Piece trading card game, especially after EBO2's release. It controls a lot of things, and especially with these big bodies that are down on the field, can really help you just get a little bit closer to being able to KO things since you don't have that big boss in the Gecko Moria. Now, the Blue Purple Luffy on the first dawn is just going to go ahead and pass. And on the second dawn turn, or the 2 dawn turn, I should say, Rob Lucci is just going to go ahead and play a Manchury. Manchury is really, really nice, especially as a card that allows you to grab something from your trash. So Blue Purple Luffy on 3, not going to be able to get any ramp off, which is already a good sign. And Rob Lucci just doing the leader effect, right? Even though this 5k swing does not hit the 6,000 power leader, you get to mill the trash. You get to build up some things in your trash to be able to utilize through Manchury later in the game, and then playing Kuzan. This 4-cost Kuzan is an excellent card to establish on the board, right? Especially, like I mentioned earlier, those big cost bodies come down onto the field. You really want them to be able to be removed easily by the cost minus of Kuzan, but you force your opponent to have some sort of removal card at that point, and that's exactly what happened. The Blue Purple Luffy using God Thread, right? God Thread being able to KO a character on the field of a cost of 5 or less is perfect for that Kuzan. And then getting a Ramp of Dawn as active, decides not to swing at all at the Rob Lucci. Says, you know what, I'm going to try to starve you out of resources real quick at this point in the game. And so with the Manchery that they played earlier, is going to use that Manchery effect after building the trash a little bit more and go ahead and with Fordon play the Kuzan. Says, you know what, if you had the God Thread the first time, how about you have it on the second time? Usually a lot of these lists will play 2 to 3 God Threads, right? And especially with no searching in the game, right? No cycling or anything like that. Still hasn't been able to use leader effect. It's a very low likelihood that they've got another way to remove this body off of the field at this point. Now, the Blue Purple Luffy does have stuff like the Bond Clay that they can utilize within this, but nothing really great in my opinion. Really, all you're doing right now, I feel like, is maybe like playing the Bond Clay and swinging at lead, and that's pretty much it, right? You want to establish that Bond Clay just in case you're able to keep that on the field and battle some bodies, maybe copy a power, because with against Rob Lucci, it's really a choice if they want to utilize resources now to KO things or wait until the Sanji Linlin effects come in, right? As you see that combo already in hand, and the 9 cost rush Luffy, right? The Blue Purple Luffy having plenty of 9 costs. Just doing that swing, play down, and pass like I was talking about. Now we go into the Rob Lucci's turn. Does find 2 Rebecca blockers, right? Has a little bit built up more of the hand of Rebecca blocker, one-legged toy soldier, and another 2k on that far left being the Bartolomeo, right? That 3 cost from Dressrosa. Starts out with another 5k swing to just build up the trash and -1 on the Bond Clay. The Bond Clay now being at 3 and at 8 Dawn right at this point in the game. You're really able to KO stuff if you really want to right now, especially with this Rebecca going. This Rebecca could be nice if this leader decides to keep swinging and decides to swing at lead this time. Decides to grab a 2k back in Bartolomeo, and now with the rest of the Fordon, play down Laboon and just pass. Doesn't want to swing the Kuzan sideways, right? Doesn't want to rest the Laboon sideways. You're just going to be patient and you're just going to wait until the next turn. So, nice to see off of this leader effect now, really getting this Blue Purple Luffy deck going. Finds Gear 2 in here, as well as a 5-drop Nami blocker. The 5-drop Nami blocker is going to be what's grabbed, right? You can't grab the Charlotte Linlin. There's also a Zoro Juro, 2 Zoro Juros, I think, in that hand. So Nami, in my opinion, is probably the best option at this point. Now it's really a question of, do you want to leave it at the top or put it at the bottom? I think they're going to leave it at the top and go draw for turn that Zoro Juro and then play 9 cost Sanji into Linlin. Would be a really good move in my personal opinion to be able to heal up life. You'd actually be a 4 life leader at that point if you decided to go that route. So is going to go ahead and leave it at the top. We'll see if they play that Sanji like I mentioned. We'll have 10 full Dawn and 2 swings to start going at lead at this point. And so the real question is, I think right now, where do you place this last Dawn? Do you leave it up for Gum Gum Giant or do you try to do something else? Now, with the Linlin play down that we knew that was on the top, I think the other Zoro Juro now is that top card in life. So this is the point of the game that makes it so difficult right now for so many decks against this Blue Purple Luffy. The chain of 9,000 power or more bodies hitting the field to be able to set up and swing in the coming turns. So ends up deciding, because of that secondary effect of the Linlin, that Laboon may be the best option to put in the trash, right? A lot of people would have maybe thought Kuzan, but you kind of want Kuzan to go ahead and swing, right, at this point. Laboon kind of being a little bit more of an option. And so Rob Lucci going ahead, using that same thing, leader effect, and just minusing 1. And now the Kuzan going ahead, swinging as well, is going to go ahead and power -1 of the other characters, right? I fully expect 10 cost Kuzan probably to come down within this turn, because if you go ahead and -4 on one of these 9 cost bodies, right, you already -1 on them. The -4 would be 5 in total of the minus, and put one of the 9 9k or 9 cost characters down to 4. So as you play that 10 cost Kuzan, it's going to have that on play effect of a 0 cost character being KO'd after the -5 of the continuous effect, right, on your turn. So would be able to KO one of those 9 cost bodies. That's kind of one of the ways that a lot of people have realized that this deck has become so strong. So goes ahead and swings that and minuses, plays down that Kuzan to go ahead and pop the Lin. Pops the Lin right there and passes off the turn. Again, just really having setup at this point as the Rob Lucci. It may look like it's real weird that the Rob Lucci hasn't really hit life or anything, hasn't really pressured the hand at all, but this is what Rob Lucci is trying to do, just trying to build their board and set up the potential marks to where you're always KOing things from left to right. So off of the leader effect is going to draw that 9 cost Luffy and also another card as their draw for turn. The draw for turn ended up being an 8 cost Katakuri. So now at this point, you don't have any 9 cost Sanjis to chain off of the top of the deck. So it goes ahead and attaches one, swings 7,000 power at Kuzan. And so without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, letting that Kuzan die. The interesting part now is that the Bon Clay, as soon as the Bon Clay swings, it's going to be a 10,000 power character, right? Because of that 10 cost Kuzan hitting the field. The 9 cost Luffy gets played, is going to draw 1 and gain rush. And we'll see when they start swinging at the life, right? You have so many 9,000 power more bodies on the field and just decides to pass actually. So I thought maybe they could have done a little bit of swinging there, but maybe doesn't want that 10 cost Kuzan to be swinging at any of the bodies. Maybe really in this matchup, I think what both players are trying to think about is who turns their bodies sideways, right? Kuzan just so important in this game to be able to help reach those numbers in a sense, right? And so you want to get sort of a double value of not only having that minus power, but also the swinging power to be able to KO and control these bodies, kind of run this blue-purple Luffy out of resources. So it seems like he's kind of thinking right now of playing like Shirahoshi and Rob Lucci at this point. The Shirahoshi is very nice in this situation with that on-play effect of -4, because with the -5 off of the 10 cost Kuzan, your Sanji and Luffy is sitting at 4 cost in general. So the Shirahoshi would be able to put it down to 0, and Rob Lucci would be able to KO 2 different characters, Bon Clay and one of the 9 costs that you feel like is much more dangerous. I would assume probably the 9 cost Luffy is more dangerous because it's 1,000 power than the Sanji, but we'll see how this player decides to divvy it up. The Tempest Kick, you don't have enough in trash right now for Tempest Kick. There's only 7 cards, 9 after this leader effect, so a Tempest Kick now would actually be able to get rid of another body. Does that -1 on the Luffy, that Luffy now being an 8 cost. You would just have one Dawn awkwardly left. So starts out with a 4 probably for that Shirahoshi, as we mentioned earlier, just establishing all of these blockers on the field, but decides to do 2. So instead of Tempest Kick is going for the Toy Soldier play. The one-legged Toy Soldier is going to give that -3 to one of the characters, being that Luffy, and then the -4 on the Shirahoshi, putting it on the Sanji. And so now the Sanji is sitting at 1 and the Luffy is sitting at 0, I believe, if my math is correct. Either way, what I was trying to get at is the Rob Lucci is making them low enough to be able to go ahead and KO both of those 9 cost bodies. And this is kind of like the ideal board state right now for the Rob Lucci, or the ideal scenario where you're constantly pressuring and putting on these bodies that can remove, especially multiple ones in a turn. It's a great answer to the 9 cost Sanji, and the blue-purple Luffy finds another one in the top 5 to potentially utilize. The bad side of this, though, is if you grab the Sanji, right, and put the rest of the top of the deck, you don't really have anything that you love 9 cost Sanjiing into. So decides to bottom deck it, just take a random from the top, and we go ahead, draw for turn. It's an Uso Hachi, I believe, right there. And now we decide what exactly we're doing at this point. You might honestly see kind of like a slower turn in a sense, from the blue-purple Luffy to be able to play that 9-cost Lin, right? Establish a body on the board, remove something like the 4-cost Rob Lucci, right? Since it's a brick in the hand, it would basically be neutralized for the entire game. And still crazy to see on 10 Dawn turns, multiple 10 Dawn turns, that the Rob Lucci is at 6 life and the blue-purple Luffy is at 4 at this point. So decides to rest 5, go ahead and play the Nami, it looks like at this point. So Nami is going to be played. It's going to be a draw 3 since the leader is multicolored, and put 2 on the top or bottom. This could be an interesting scenario to try to get 9-cost Sanji going in the next turn. Maybe filter out the hand of cards that you just don't need in this matchup, because I believe they just bottom decked the 8-cost purple kind of Curry that was in the hand, trying to build up a little bit of counter. And so the Usohachi comes in with that on play, is going to go ahead and rest one of the blockers. The player right now just trying to think about what is more valuable. I like maybe resting the Rebecca blocker, right? And so swings 6 into that Rebecca blocker, passes off the turn. I like getting rid of the Rebecca instead of the Shirahoshi, right? Those were the 2 options right there. And the reason that I do like that play is that Rebecca is a lot harder to recur without the use of some Manchury or anything like that, where Shirahoshi can just be grabbed off of Rebecca, right? So kind of in that reverse order. So uses the leader effect to just go ahead and -1 on the board, especially with the 5 on the Kuzan on the entire field. Anything can die to the 3-cost Brook that is in the hand. If they go ahead and like double 3-cost Brook, they're going to be able to get rid of 2 bodies immediately with those on plays. Even a Rebecca right here, Rebecca and Brook combo may be nice to be able to play 3 bodies on the field, although I think maybe the Rebecca would actually just grab a 2K at this point, or maybe something like Jack. Jack and 10-cost Kuzan is a deadly combo within this game, right? Since the Kuzan minuses 5 on everything, it's just a little bit more minus for most all bodies to get in that 3 range for the Jack, so could be extremely dangerous if Rebecca goes ahead and grabs that back. And so is going to go ahead and play that Rebecca, resting 4, is probably grabbing this Jack back like I mentioned, and there it goes into the hand, plays down the Brook. The Brook is going to be able, remember that the Brook has to come in rested, I believe, right? So is going to take care of that Bond Clay, get rid of it, and now the draw for turn. This Brook is... Oh no, maybe they actually did not rest it. Maybe they just put it in hand, opted not to play anything, and then just play it on the field as active so they couldn't swing into it. That's actually what happened. My apologies. This is a little tough when I'm not on the field and hearing in Japanese, or since I don't know Japanese. But anyways, now the Luffy going back into leader effect is going to be looking at this hand of cards and thinking about what they want to work with. They do have that 9-cost Sanji in hand, so the Luffy could be good to utilize and be able to build up the board, as we mentioned earlier, right? You could draw the 2K Sanji for turn into playing the Luffy and then using that 9-cost Luffy effect to draw into one of those other cards that you really enjoy. And basically then at that next turn, you would be able to have a new stack of 5 cards almost to be able to balance and try to utilize on your leader effect to continue this train. So is going to grab that 2K Sanji. What are they going to go ahead and grab for turn? Could be in a situation where you could grab all of the counter, right? You draw the Nami, play the Luffy, that draws the Zoro Juro, and the God Thread is the only card that you don't see within this top 5. So that's, again, one of the reasons why this blue-purple Luffy deck is so strong. You can use a combo such as this to get 4 of your top 5 cards, right? So just so good in my opinion, and so strong. That's why a lot of people are a little scared of this upcoming format, you know, of it being so dominated by blue-purple deck Luffy. And so plays that 9-cost Sanji to draw a card off of that, just passes off the turn. continues to play this game of chicken. We've got a little less than 12 minutes left in this game. That's how long this game has gone on so far. And so now with a full board, are you actually going to play Jack at this point? Looks like maybe is going to start swinging now with the leader. The leader effect plus Jack would be able to get rid of one of these 9-cost bodies on the field, and then Brook can go in and take out another body. But what do you take off of your field, right, in order to do that? With the Shirahoshi Rebecca, you can only have 5 characters on the field at a single time. This match, as well, as you can see in the top left corner, is going to determine who and which team ends up winning this series. Going to be really exciting in this one. I'm excited about the tail end. This game has gone a little bit more weird than I thought it had. I will admit, that's probably the better way to say it. I will admit that this is one of the first times that I've seen this matchup, or, you know, I could probably count on one hand how many times I've seen it. So interesting to see this play evolve. Is going to go ahead and use the Tempest Kick on the Luffy. So the Luffy is going to be -3 on there, so 6, and then -5. Puts it as a 1-cost on the field. The Brook going in and swinging is going to go ahead -1 on the Luffy and KO it, right? Because Brook can KO the 0 costs on the field. The Rob Lucci now going to swing. Looks like Rob Lucci now going on the aggressive, right? And going ahead and swinging. Might be replacing this Rob Lucci with the Jack on the field, right? And so Blue Purple Luffy decides to take the first life. That's that Zorojiro that we knew about earlier, if you heard me talk about it. And with those Robin sleeves, is thinking about where to put these 2 Dawn. Looks like maybe attaching it to leader and going ahead and swinging 7. This 7 that is going to be swung at lead is probably going to minus the Sanji, right, and put it at a -6 overall, putting it in perfect Jack range for the rest of this 7 Dawn that we know is in the hand from grabbing it off Rebecca earlier. And so minusing 1 that Sanji, like I mentioned, going to be up to whether or not the Blue Purple Luffy wants to counter or give another life, and taking another life is exactly what's going to happen. A nice Bong play right there. Not really useful at this stage of the game, but it's a 1K counter at the very least. And so with this Kuzan swing, being able to clear out both bodies of the board, now is a perfect time for Kuzan to swing right at 10,000 power at life, and you don't expect at the defense anything other than the leader or maybe a 9-cost Luffy to swing at it. The Jack is going to come down, right? And the Jack does need to replace a character on the field. It looks like it's going to replace Brook, actually. So I would have thought maybe replacing the Rob Lucci was the better option, because Brook gives you another out to KO different bodies, but maybe just saying, as they do this draw 1, trash 1 filtering in the hand, that at this point in the game, all I really need is leader effect and the 10-cost Kuzan on the field. So Jack really replaces out that Brook. And so finding the Jack off the draw 1, trash 1, very nice to be able to find and just filter out. I would have thought maybe they had the opportunity to keep it, but I do kind of like that they went ahead and pitched it, said, you know what, I've got one. This game can be over in a couple turns if I'm careful, right? So now on this top 5, what are they finding? It looks like they found a Gum Gum Red Hawk at this point. So the Gum Gum Red Hawk might be able to play, and you're not super mad at that if you're the Lucci. The thing that does suck, though, if it does leave, is that the Gum Gum Red Hawk more than likely bottom decks the 10-cost Kuzan, right? Both the 10-cost Kuzan and the Jack are extremely dangerous, so it's really about what you think you can get rid of the most value, right, on this Rob Lucci side of the board. Looks like they will attach at least 2 Dawn at this point on the Luffy and go ahead and swing 8,000 power. Now, whether they're going at lead, whether they're going at the Jack or the Rob Lucci character, maybe attaching 1 for 9 and deciding on 8, swinging at the Rob Lucci, just going to be an easy KO or block, one of the two. I don't know if I would counter out at this point. It really just depends. You know that they have the Gum Gum Red Hawk in hand, so do they go ahead and play it is the real question. How much do you expect them to go in and try to take that maximum potential of that red rock to get rid of one of these two extremely powerful bodies on the field that are just KOing your guys left and right. And so lets the Rob Lucci die at this point. We've got 6 minutes left to be able to determine what's going to happen in this match before we hit the overtime rules. Plenty in hand to both players, right? Healthy hand sizes, especially on the blue-purple Luffy side, and lets this body go. I do think that this is the correct decision. It did its job. You don't really want to give up a blocker at this point right now, and so forcing the player to utilize the red rock, right? Bottom decking that 10 cost Kuzan. It's going to be up to now the fast pace of the Luffy to be able to get out and go before another 10 cost Kuzan hits the field. Finds a third jack, so finds the third out of the 4 jacks within this deck list. Might be an interesting thing to play at this point, right? With a Brook Jack combo, you can clear both bodies off the field with the 2 jacks and be able also to draw one, trash one, and filter the hand with all of those jacks. Maybe get a little closer to finding something like the 10 cost Kuzan, especially when Rob Lucci lists not playing brand new, can't find naturally the 10 cost Kuzan, has to specifically get it off the draw since it's not something that you can get back off of Rebecca. So goes ahead, utilizes the first jack. The first jack is going to draw one, trash one to be able to KO this Usohachi on the field, neutralize it as a swing in general. So ends up what looks like drawing the card on the far left. I'm not sure what it was, but pitching the Brook out of the hand in response. Looks like they may go ahead and use the 2K in Suru at this point. So uses the Rob Lucci leader effect. There goes the 10 cost Kuzan that we mentioned earlier to make it a 4 cost. And now the Suru right here is going to -2 to make it a 2 cost at this point. And with this 7 is going to go ahead and play another jack onto the field to continue filtering the hand, controlling the board, and KOing bodies, right? No value off of this. And with that draw, looks like they found a Manchuri at this point. And so Manchuri is going to be grabbed, and what looks like the one-legged toy soldier is going to be pitched. The Manchuri can only grab 3 to 5 cost black characters, so might be nice to find some more cost minusing to be able to grab and utilize off of the jack. So is going to get rid of that Nami, play down the Manchuri, replacing the Suru, and go ahead and use the Manchuri effect to put 2 cards back to the bottom of the deck and be able to grab something in exchange, putting back the Tempest Kick and Suru. They're going to end up grabbing the Rebecca, so saying, you know what, I might at this point, as they have a 10 cost Kuzan in hand. I don't know when they got that 10 cost Kuzan actually, but is going to be a nice card to play in the coming turns to be able to KO potentially a 9 cost combo at this point. So Nami and another red rock are here. We might see a red rock get grabbed on this draw just to let the opponent know, okay, this is going to be in the hand at this point. Just to be clear on this, is going to grab what I believe was Usohachi 2K and the 9 cost Linlin at the top of the deck. Seems like a real big scenario right now of whether or not you want to go ahead and use the 9 cost Sanji for the Linlin combo or the red rock. And so goes for the 9 cost Linlin, is going to be able to gain a life, go back to 2 with 1 minute and 45 seconds left in this game. And so puts the Rebecca at the bottom, decides not to put a card in life. I think they forgot. Oh no, there they go. They decide to do that. You can opt to not put anything at the top of your life if you're curious on the wording of the Charlotte Lillian, because it says up to. It's just probably a good idea to do it, right? Gaining a life is almost never really that bad of an idea. And so now passing it off to the Rob Lucci's turn, he's going to go in and do some minusing, -1 on that Linlin, putting it at an 8 cost. And so uses the jack now to swing 8,000 power at lead, no bodies to KO with that activate main effect, And so now here comes a lot of the pressure on the side of the Rob Lucci. Going to have to command 2 cards right here, whether that's a Gum Gum Giant or a 2K1K, and a 2K1K is going to be the first choice. The 10 cost Kuzan comes down, is going to -5 to both of those characters, and since we did that -1 earlier, is going to use the activate main Jack effect to draw 1 and pitch the Laboon to KO the 9 cost Lin Lin, and again, neutralize the amount of bodies that are on the field. So with a leader effect yet again for the blue purple Luffy, I think that this is the 4th Sanji that they've found now on this situation. So the 4th Sanji could be nice, but do you even want to grab it right now, right? How much do you value using Red Rock, I'm sorry, the Gum Gum Red Hawk on this turn to get rid of the 10 cost Kuzan, right? We know that 1 is at the bottom of the deck after the Manchuri, right? We know that 1 hit the trash earlier, or I'm sorry, the bottom of the deck from your Red Rock. So there's only 1 10 cost Kuzan left in this game, and especially in the overtime turn. Now, it looks like our blue-purple Luffy is going to be turn 0. So after turn 0, the way that the overtime finishes is that Rob Lucci will be turn 1, the blue-purple Luffy will be turn 2, and then the Rob Lucci will be turn 3. And then after that, you determine by life and also deck size after that. And so, especially since the Rob Lucci is sitting at 7 life at this point, 7 life comparatively to the blue-purple Luffy's 2, I think they're just deciding right now of whether or not he drew for turn. And he definitely grabbed something off the leader effect, but if he drew for turn, just clarifying that real quick. It looks like the Rob Lucci sitting in a prime position right now, you know, even though there are some rush cards in the blue-purple Luffy deck, it's not an extremely aggressive deck like Bello Betty, like Zuro, right? That has all of these very small rush characters that can take a lot of life very quickly. There's plenty of counter in the hand for the Rob Lucci to be able to get out of swings and really make sure that after these 3 turns that he's got enough life, especially after this Red Rock bottom decking the Kuzan. Now with the rest of this Dawn, what do you do? Do you swing at life or do you swing at these Jacks, right? The Jacks, just like the 10 cost Kuzan, are a heavy piece of the puzzle, and decides to Usohachi rest the Shirahoshi, swing at the Shirahoshi to clear it off the field, and attach 1 Dawn, swing 10,000 power at the Jack. With this, it's going to command 2 cards, a 2K1K combo, and that's exactly what we get off the Tashigi and Rebecca. And the turn is going to be passed back over to the Rob Lucci. So now drawing for turn. Doesn't have too many options in the hand left available to him, but as turn 1 of the 3 turns, I don't think you're really afraid of losing at this point, right? The Luffy might not have any more in terms of life to give up, right? Unless they purposely take a life, just simply because of all the cards in hand as you do a Jack rotation on that activate main to KO the Usohachi. There's just not enough bodies on the field to really just pressure life on your side, right? Having 7 life at this point. I don't know if I've seen Rob Lucci have this much life. So swings 8 and counters out of it with a 2K1K. Now another 8 is going to go with a 2K1K on that leader. And so Rebecca's going to come down, is going to go ahead and grab a nice card into the hand. Looks like Tashigi, and Tashigi right now is going to be in and Bartolomeo with the rest of the Dawn, not because of the Rebecca effect. The Bartolomeo is going to come in as an active character, putting 2 blockers on the field. I believe this is turn 2 now of overtime, so this is the last turn for the blue-purple Luffy player. Not 100% sure how he's going to end up winning this game. Kind of the long con, as you mentioned, even only 3 cards in hand off of the Rob Lucci side is just a little bit too late at this point. So I think they kind of talked about it right there of like, I can't get you down to 2 life and I have less decks. So the Rob Lucci is going to win in overtime. Definitely, I think a really good showcase of what you kind of want to do in that matchup. If you're the Rob Lucci, right? Really just focus in, and your only goal is just KOing bodies, right? KOing bodies turn after turn after turn. One of the longest lasting decks that I feel like we see in this meta right now, or in the card game in general, right? In terms of longevity and resource management. Great job by the Rob Lucci. I think it's a big reason why a lot of people are going to Rob Lucci right in these different tournaments, in these events to combat these gigantic bodies, especially if you also have a good matchup into green-purple Luffy, right? If you're heading into the EBO2 format out in the West, Rob Lucci is definitely a deck that you want to keep your eye on and showcase at your local championships that you've got coming up, especially with maybe this list that we've got here in the next couple seconds after we go over the blue-purple Luffy's list, because well, we have both deck lists. Now, this is the deck list for the blue-purple Luffy deck. Unfortunately, didn't have any ramp in the early game, and you have plenty of ramp options in 4-0 Juro, 4 Bon Clay, 4 Gear 2s, right? Gear 2, an incredible event on a 3 Dawn turn, having the ability to ramp or be a counter event on the defensive side, provides so much flexibility for this deck alongside the one card that we did see in the early game, the God Thread, right? Played on the 5 Dawn turn for the blue-purple Luffy. The Charlotte Katakuri is something that is phased in and out of these blue-purple Luffy deck lists and is definitely a good option, especially when you're playing another set of big mom pirates type characters that are on the field, right? Being able to restand these 9-cost Linlins can be so good, as well as being able to restand itself. If you didn't hear me talk about it in the previous purple Katakuri round, how, you know, this card can just restand itself and basically be a free 8,000 power swing. The tech options that you've got in this list, a one of Franosuke, right? Something that we see a little bit in blue-purple. The Franosuke is a little tech option, right? This 2K does have the ability to have rush in the late game, which can be really good in the aggression, right? Or maybe taking out some of the other annoying decks that you've got to face, like Bello Betty or Zuro, right? Just a real small body that can immediately have value with that 1 Dawn, as well as maybe Namul. Namul is something that I kind of see some players gravitate towards, especially with that draw to and then return to on the top or bottom of the deck. It's a real nice filter, just like we had on the opposing side, right, with the Rob Lucci on those jacks. Just a really nice hand filter. Namul and Nami are 2 blockers that pair really well together to be able to help stabilize the hand and find exactly what you're looking for. The Charlotte Pudding also is another good option that some players play in this deck, and I mean, I personally think that just about any blue deck should play a one of at least of this Big Mom Pirates 4-cost, right? Because Charlotte Pudding, being able to reset an opponent's entire hand that they've built and filtered all game, is oftentimes what can just generally win you a match, right? Is just that good of a card. And especially in a deck that, even though it is not searchable through the leader effect, being able to know exactly where it is and be able to identify when you can exactly draw it, either through leader effect or maybe keeping it off of the Namul or Nami, is just so good in so many situations. So really like that one. Really also like the red rocks in the deck, right, to get rid of big bodies on the field that you couldn't get rid of otherwise outside of battle. And a great job by this player piloting this deck to the runner-up spot in the finals. And here we've got the winning list, Rob Lucci, right, showcasing why, if you've got stuff like 10-cost Kuzan on the field, Kuzan, the 4-cost that has, you know, been in and out, I feel like, of these black decks, and also Jack. It's a deadly combo that can be utilized within this game. It's very interesting to have seen this deck in action, right? Because especially how passive it was on the attack in the early game, I would have thought that you would have tried to get a little bit more aggressive in some stages of the game, played on the field like this Rob Lucci, just forcing the opponent to say, okay, the only way that you're going to get rid of this guy, or maybe this Kuzan right here, is not necessarily if you swing at it, but if you KO it with God Thread, if you Gum Red Hawk, if you 9-drop Linlin, put it in life. Very interesting gameplay to showcase in this. Rob Lucci, definitely one of those decks that is more often than not built around the meta, right, in terms of its different tech options. Shirahoshi, not something that we've typically seen in this deck, but really making a chance in here, I think. First introduced really on the black-yellow Luffy before the ban list that we recently had. It's just a nice option to grab, right? And getting -4 cost is so good in a lot of situations. Manchery back in full force in this deck list specifically, right? being able to grab a 3 to 5 cost black character for just 1 Dawn is so nice for a lot of situations, especially because this character is so powerful. It almost acts as like an indirect blocker, as we saw in that match, to where as soon as you turn it sideways with that activate main, your opponent's going to swing at it, right? So you do kind of get a ton of value from that character right there. We didn't see it in action, but there were 2 really cheeky one of techs in this deck. The first one we saw on the discard, the Gum Gum Bell, right? Luffy going ahead and hitting that Kuro right there is a card that we've seen time to time in a couple different lists in the last couple months, doing that -7, right? -7 for just 2 Dawn, and in exchange, taking a life when your opponent is kind of like in that game where Rob Lucci has 7 life on the field. -7 for an exchange of a life is sometimes so valuable and so worth it in a lot of situations, especially when you have that trigger as well, right? To be able to grab a couple different characters that are of value on the field in the Man Tree, Tsuru, and One-Legged Toy Soldier that you either milled earlier or used as counter. The Absalom is another really cute tech card in my opinion, right? For 4 costs, you can KO a character of a cost of 2 or less if you put 2 cards back in your deck, especially when you have the 10 cost Kuzan on field alongside the leader effect. That means that you can KO any character with Absalom that is 8 cost or less in terms of the starting count, which is very frequent in stuff like Blue Purple Luffy. Really cool tech card in my opinion. Don't know if I've technically run it, but it ended up probably working out for the player in this tournament on the way to a championship title. And that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed this tournament as well. If you want to see the entire tournament, I've got a whole playlist on the channel that you can see all 5 of the rounds from top 16 to the finals. We've got some stuff with EBO2 format, right? Talking about different decks, different metas, things like that. And then heading into OP11 is going to be a ton of fun, and I hope you're with me as well. On top of the upcoming OP12 format, I know I've got some boxes coming in from a sponsor, and also got to talk about that set because it looks to be very, very cool. Thank you again so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and go check out more, I guess. That's all I got.